Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to create our very first local Git repository using the git init command. We will start by explaining what a local repository is and what the git init command does. Then, we will walk through the standard, step-by-step process of initializing a new repository. We will look under the hood to understand the crucial .git directory that git init creates. After that, we will explore how to customize the name of the very first branch in your new repository. We will also cover several advanced use cases, including how to create bare repositories, how to use a template to initialize your project, and how to keep your .git directory separate from your working files. Finally, we will set the stage for the next logical step, making your first commit. Let's get started. So what exactly is a local Git repository? Think of it as a normal project folder, but with superpowers. The word local is key. It means the entire history of your project, every change you have ever saved, is stored right here on your own computer. You do not need an internet connection to save your work, view past versions, or create new branches. Everything Git needs to track your project is placed inside a special, hidden subfolder. This local repository is your private workspace. Later, you can share your work by connecting it to a remote repository, but it all starts here. The git init command is used to turn your regular folder into a new Git repository. In the next section, we will look at this command in more detail. Let's focus on the command that starts it all, git init. This command has one simple but powerful job. It creates a new Git repository. You can use it in two main ways. First, you can navigate into a project folder you are already working on and run git init there. This will turn your existing project into a Git repository without affecting any of your files. Second, you can create a brand new, empty repository from scratch. Git will create the new folder for you and set it up for version control. The most important thing to remember is that this is a one-time command. You only need to run it once when you first start tracking a project with Git. Next, we will walk through the exact steps to do this. Alright, let's create our first repository. The process is very straightforward and involves two simple steps. First, you need to create a folder for your project. In your terminal, you can use the make directory command, mkdir, followed by your project's name, like my project. Then, you need to move inside that folder using the change directory command, cd. Now for the magic. Once you are inside your project folder, you simply type git init and press enter. You will see a message that says initialized empty Git repository, followed by a path to a .git folder. And that is all it takes. Your folder is now officially a Git repository, ready to start tracking your project's history. But what did that command actually do behind the scenes? Let's explore that in the next section. So what really happened when you ran git init? It created a single, hidden folder in your project named .git. You can think of this .git folder as the entire brain of your repository. Let's look at a few key parts inside it. First is the objects directory. This is Git's database. It does not just copy your files. Instead, it compresses and stores the contents of your files, the structure of your directories, and your commits as unique objects. This is what makes Git so fast and efficient. Next is the refs folder, which is short for references. This folder contains simple pointers to your commits. A branch, for example, is just a tiny file in here that holds the ID of a single commit. This is why creating and deleting branches in Git is almost instant. Then there is the head file. Think of this as the "you are here" sign in your project's history. It is a pointer that points to the branch you are currently on. It tells Git where to attach your next commit. Finally, there is the config file. This is your local configuration. Any settings you put here, like a special username or an alias, will override your global settings, but only for this one specific repository. You almost never need to touch these files yourself, but everything that makes Git work lives inside this single .git folder. Now let's see how we can confirm that our new repository is working correctly. Okay, so Git has created the .git directory, but how do we know everything is working? The most common command you will ever use in Git is git status. It's like asking your repository, what is your current state? When you run git status in your new, empty repository, you will get a few lines of information. First, it will say on branch main. This tells you that Git has created a default branch for you, usually named main. Next, it will say no commits yet. This makes sense, as we have not saved any versions of our project. Finally, you will see nothing to commit. This confirms that the repository is clean and there are no new files or changes to be saved. Seeing this output is the perfect confirmation that your repository was initialized successfully. Next, we will look at how you can customize that default branch name. By default, when you create a new repository, Git gives your very first branch a name. In modern versions of Git, this is usually main, but you might see master in older tutorials. But what if your team prefers a different name, like develop or production? You can actually set this name yourself when you run git init. To do this, you use the initial branch or -b flag. For example, the command would be git init -b, followed by the branch name, in this case develop. After you run it, the initialization message will look the same. But when you run git status, you will now see the message on branch develop. This is a handy way to set up your repository according to your project-specific conventions right from the start. Next, we will move into some more advanced uses of git init, starting with bare repositories. Now let's explore a more advanced topic, the bare repository. A normal repository has two parts, your project files, which is your working directory, and the hidden .git folder. A bare repository only has the .git folder part. There is no working directory, which means you cannot directly edit files or make commits inside it. So what is it used for? A bare repository is designed to be a central place for sharing code. Think of it as a hub that team members can push their changes to and pull updates from. Since no one can edit files directly there, it keeps the central copy of the code clean and safe. To create one, you use the git init command with the --bare flag. It is a convention to name bare repositories with a .git extension. If you look inside the folder it creates, you will see the same files you would find inside a .git directory. However, since there is no working directory, if you try to add files, you will get an error fatal. This operation must be run in a work tree. Next, we will look at how you can create a new repository based on a template. Let's look at another advanced feature, using a template directory. Imagine you want every new repository you create to start with the same set of files. This could be a standard gitignore file, a set of commit message hooks, or a README template. A template directory lets you do exactly that. First, you create a regular folder and put all the files and directories you want to reuse inside it. For example, you could create a template with a special hooks folder containing a pre-commit script. Then, when you run git init, you use the --template flag, followed by the path to your template directory. Git will initialize the new repository, and then copy everything from your template into the new project's .git folder. This is an incredibly powerful way to standardize how new projects are created. Next, we will cover one final advanced use case, keeping your .git directory separate. Finally, let's look at one more advanced option. Normally, the .git directory lives right inside your project folder. But what if you want to track files in a directory without cluttering it with a .git folder? A classic example is managing your configuration files or .dot files in your home directory. Git allows you to initialize a repository but store the .git directory somewhere else entirely. The command for this is git init, followed by the separate git directory flag and the path to where you want the repository to live. After running this, your working directory will not have a .git folder. Instead, it will have a small .git file that simply points to the real location of the repository. This is a clever way to keep your working directory clean while still having all the power of Git version control. Now that we know all the ways to create a repository, what is the very next thing we should do? So we have successfully created a local repository. What is the very next thing you should do? Right now, the repository is empty. The next logical step is to create a file, tell Git to track that file, and then save the first snapshot of your project. This is known as making your first commit. The workflow is simple. First, you create a file, for example, a readme.md file. Second, you use the git add command to tell Git you want to include this new file in your next save. This adds the file to the staging area. Third, you use the git commit command with a -m flag for a message to permanently save your changes. For example, git commit -m initial commit. After running this, you have officially saved the first point in your project's history. We will cover adding and committing in much more detail in the next video. Now let's summarize what we have learned. Let's quickly summarize the key takeaways from this video. First, the git init command is the essential starting point for any new project you want to track with Git. This command's main job is to create the hidden .git directory, which is the brain of your entire repository. The standard workflow is incredibly simple. You just create a folder, move into it, and run the command. Always use git status right after you initialize a repository to make sure it was created successfully. Remember that advanced flags like initial branch and bare give you powerful customization options for more complex setups. And finally, creating a repository is just the beginning. Your very next step is to add files and make your first commit to start building your project's history. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified about new content. A link to the code and the markdown file for this presentation is included in the description section below. See you in the next video.